Coming up on Valley View News, Kaiser Permanente employees who don't get vaccinated face termination. Plus, CSUN's Performing Arts Department takes a unique approach to in-person classes. And the U.S. is finally lifting the travel ban that was started because of the pandemic.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Elizabeth Medina.
And I'm Malik Patterson in the Digital Media Center.
The first Jamaican-American U.S. Secretary of State, Colin Powell, has died. Powell died from complications of COVID-19 on Monday morning. He was known as a trailblazer. Powell helped shape American foreign policy for more than 20 years. Students and professors remembered Powell, including CSUN English professor Amy Reynolds and CSUN student Kayla Leigh Sparks.
Well, it's really sad. I'm really sorry to see him go. He was a great American, a great patriot.
Today, a very important person passed away today, and it's very saddening, but at the same time, he left behind a great legacy.
President Biden ordered flags to be flown at half-staff in honor of the man who he called a friend. Powell was fully vaccinated but suffered from pre-existing medical conditions. He had Parkinson's and multiple myeloma, a type of cancer that affects plasma cells and suppresses the body's immune system. Powell is survived by his wife Alma and 3 children.
This week in Georgia, the trial started for the 3 Caucasian men accused of killing a 25-year-old African-American man. Ahmaud Arbery was out for a jog when he was fatally shot in February 2020. Gregory McMichael, his son Travis, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryant Jr. was charged with malice and felony murder. Even though the shooting happened last year, some people in Glenn County, Georgia are outraged.
There's going to be feelings of sadness, but at the end we're hoping for a spirit of happiness when we get the guilty verdict that we're looking for.
The 3 defendants pled not guilty. However, a video taken by Bryant showed Travis McMichael shooting Arbery with 3 shotgun blasts. Defense attorney says the men pursued Arbery because they thought he was a burglar.
The United States will lift its travel ban for fully vaccinated international travelers next month. The White House also said restrictions will be lifted at ferry crossings and land borders with Mexico and Canada. Many non-U.S. citizens who travel to places like Brazil, China, and parts of Europe still won't be allowed into the U.S. The ban started at the beginning of the pandemic. It was then extended last winter to slow the spread of the Delta COVID-19 variant. Several airlines expressed relief that the ban is being lifted. Airlines have struggled during the past 18 months with sharp decreases in international travel.
Some LA business owners are enforcing a new vaccination mandate this week. Valley View's Jonathan Giovinazzi explains.
It's game day in LA, and the atmosphere at Common Space Brewery in Hawthorne is exhilarating. But manager Gabe Callahan and his team are enforcing a new rule this week.
Just to let you know, we need vaccination requirements for inside.
Sure. If you want to sit inside at LA breweries, bars, or large events, you'll need to show proof that you're vaccinated for COVID-19.
For me, I think for the employees as well, it's about the idea that we're doing something better for the greater good.
Fresh with my booster.
Today. Not much has changed for Common Space. Beer is still made in-house, and customers are still flocking in like they always do. Callahan says he's not scared of losing business because his staff is polite when enforcing the mandate.
We have wonderful employees that are very good and nice about it, and we're as accommodating as can be about everything.
And if people aren't vaccinated, many breweries can still serve them. Those guests are welcome to have a seat outside.
Don't worry about coming in here to Common Space, whether you're vaccinated or not. We'll have a spot for you.
While bartenders check for cards and pour handcrafted beer, some customers, even vaccinated ones, are unsure if they agree with the mandate.
I think it should still be up to the people to have their own choice on what they do to their bodies.
The CDC says that fully vaccinated people can still spread COVID-19. So the next time you're at a brewery, like Common Space, you'll need a mask when you're indoors, unless you're eating or drinking. Reporting from the city of Hawthorne, I'm Jonathan Giovinazzi.
In a tribute to America's fallen police officers, President Biden spoke with their families about the losses. 491 officers were killed in the line of duty in 2019 and 2020. The ceremony took place just hours after 3 Texas deputy constables were shot in an apparent ambush early Saturday morning.
So under the mournful sound of the bagpipes, we must also hear something else. Call to do better, to do more, to keep you safe, to keep our communities safer, for us to step up, build trust and respect, and heal the breach we now see in so many communities.
Biden said that 2020 was the deadliest year on record for law enforcement. He addressed demands by some activists who support defunding the police by promising more funding for community policing and mental health assistance.
The FDA voted unanimously last weekend to recommend boosters for people who received the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 shots. The committee advised people should get the booster at least 2 months after their first dose. They voted 19-0, authorizing the booster for people above the age 18. Johnson & Johnson says the boosting at 2 or 6 months can bring effectiveness up to 94%. J&J also says that the effectiveness doesn't diminish at the same rate as the Pfizer vaccine. However, the J&J vaccine has been proven not as effective as the other 2 vaccines.
Last Friday was the deadline for LAUSD employees to have taken at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Officials say 97% of administrators and teachers met the deadline. Employees must get a second dose by November 15th. People who don't comply could be terminated. LAUSD requires weekly testing regardless of vaccination status. The district also requires that all eligible students to be fully vaccinated by December 19th.
An apparent ambush shooting outside of a sports bar in Houston last weekend killed 1 officer and wounded 2 others. The suspect is said to be a man in his early 20s. Houston authorities confirmed that 3 of their deputies had been involved in the shooting.
Our deputies went out to confront a suspect. While they were trying to make an arrest of that suspect, they had him on the ground, and a second suspect came out of nowhere with a rifle and began to basically shoot our deputies.
However, authorities later confirmed the person isn't believed to be the shooter. 2 of the 3 deputies shot were working an extra shift at the bar. They went outside to investigate a disturbance. Police think they interrupted a robbery. The suspect remains at large.
The Justice Department wants the Supreme Court to step in and block the Texas law that bans most abortions after 6 weeks. The DOJ hasn't said when it'll petition the court. In early September, a divided court chose not to review the Texas law, effectively making it legal. The Justice Department said that Roe v. Wade was meaningless in Texas. So far, there have been many cases challenging the law. The justice will consider the abortion issue again in December over a Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks. Texas and Mississippi law currently have no exceptions for rape or incest.
The UN Climate Summit takes place next month in Glasgow, Scotland. Former President Barack Obama will attend and speak to young activists. Obama's office said he'll speak about the progress that's been made in the last 5 years. He'll talk about the leadership role young people around the globe have played in urging more action on climate change. President Biden will also be there. He'll discuss his plan to cut carbon emissions 50 to 52% by 2030. The Glasgow summit takes place 5 years to the day after the Paris agreements on climate change.
President Biden said those ignoring subpoenas from the committee investigating the January 6 riots should be prosecuted. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that Biden supports the committee's work and any decisions about prosecutions. Biden was asked what message he had for people being prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
What's your message to people who defy congressional subpoenas on the January 6 committee?
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the Justice Department?
Yes.
The committee said it'll hold Steve Bannon in criminal contempt for refusal to comply with a subpoena. Bannon said he refuses to attend a deposition until the committee reaches an agreement with former President Trump over executive privilege.
Thousands of people working at Kaiser will be suspended from work if they don't get fully vaccinated by December 1st. Mary Perionian has the story.
Employees at Kaiser Permanente who don't get the COVID vaccine are facing suspension from work. James Mack is a property manager for Kaiser. He thinks being required to get vaccinated is best for everyone.
Hospitals, all businesses are doing what they think is best for their employees and for visitors or anything like that.
President Biden mandated that companies with more than 100 employees must have them all vaccinated.
I think it's a little unfair because if people don't want to take the vaccine, they shouldn't have to. But of course, the vaccine could be safe, but then people are a little suspicious of it.
Workers at Kaiser and people at many other companies like Shane Marshall will get terminated if they don't get vaccinated.
Right. Yeah, it's wrong. I'm not down with it. I'm looking at the same thing at my job. Shot or fired. We don't have a date yet.
Juanita Lujan believes that getting the vaccine will help decrease cases worldwide.
This disease is not going to go away if these people do not take their shots.
Kaiser employs 216,000 people nationwide. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom said that 2.2 million healthcare workers had until September 30 to get fully vaccinated or be suspended. In addition to the new COVID rules, Kaiser hospitals are also experiencing staffing shortages, and their healthcare workers have voted to strike. They want a 4% raise. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Mary Peronian.
More to come on Valley View News. Female engineers still face sexism within their field, and 5 people are dead after a bow and arrow attack in Norway. We'll be right back.
Let's go to Jeannie Rodriguez in Studio B with some international news.
5 people died in Norway after being shot and killed during a bow and arrow attack. Mourners gathered in Kongsberg for a vigil honoring the 4 women and 1 man who were killed by a Danish citizen named Espen Andersen Brathen. Brathen attacked victims within arrows at a supermarket. He then headed to a nearby neighborhood and shot people on the street and in apartments. Police say Brathen confessed to the killings after his arrest. Norway's domestic intelligence agency is still investigating his motives. They're saying it may be an act of terrorism. Brathen was charged with 5 counts of murder. He's being held in a high-security psychiatric ward because of concerns over his mental health. He'll be evaluated to decide whether he was legally sane at the time of the attack. Thousands of Salvadorians protested their president and the government in the country's capital on Wednesday. President Nayib Bukele is promoting his plan to make Bitcoin a legal tender. Many citizens are skeptical about having Bitcoin adopted as a source of payment along with the US dollar. Protesters say Bukele has too much power and has become a dictator since he was elected in 2019. ATM machines made to handle Bitcoin transactions were vandalized by demonstrators. Public opinion surveys in El Salvador show that most people oppose making Bitcoin their official currency. Protesters say they fear Bukele and don't want him to be reelected in 2024. 16 missionaries were kidnapped at a Haitian airport by a local gang last Saturday. The group included Americans, 1 Canadian, and 5 children. 2 French priests were also kidnapped in a separate incident earlier that day. An Ohio-based ministry confirms that the group was on the way to a local orphanage when they were abducted. The Haitian government suspects a gang known as 400 Mawozo to be responsible. The U.S. State Department says it's working with the senior Haitian officials on the case. The FBI will assist with any negotiations. Protests erupted in Italy after the country began requiring workers to show a COVID health pass. The so-called Green Pass shows proof of vaccination, recent COVID tests, and recovery from COVID-19 within the last 6 months. Protesters say the government is discriminating against them. Workers who fail to show their Green Pass will be considered absent without justification. The pass is required to attend indoor events as well as dine at restaurants and go to theaters and museums. Those trying to enter without the pass face fines from $600 to $1,700. Thousands of students in Sydney, Australia returned to in-person school as COVID-19 restrictions began to ease. Students spent months learning online. Children from kindergarten through grade 12 have a set schedule for returning to classes. The Delta variant had Sydney, Australia's biggest city, under a strict lockdown for 4 months. Masks are no longer required in offices. Larger groups are now allowed inside of homes. Authorities say international travelers, residents, and citizens would be allowed to enter Sydney starting November 1st without having the quarantine. That's it for international news. Back to you, Malik, in the newsroom.
Female student engineers are navigating through a new generation and gender challenges. Valley View's Kimmy Chacon spoke to some CSUN students about the challenges they face as a woman pursuing a male-dominated occupation.
Alexandria Chavez is an engineering graduate student at CSUN. She says some people doubted her potential in engineering, but that didn't stop her.
First full-time position, and you meet people who are like, oh, is your degree real? Like, you're a real engineer? It's like, I didn't know they had fake ones.
Fatima Serrato is studying mechanical engineering for her undergrad degree. She thinks she needs to dress less feminine in order to become a professional engineer.
But I like to wear dresses, skirts, but when you go into the workplace, you don't see a lot of female engineers wear that. It's normally like pants.
Teni Shanaharian studies engineering management. She believes women are empowered by studying this field.
They have a sense of engineering in them that they just are afraid to pursue it.
Alexandria and 2 other female engineers are navigating through a new generation of opportunities. It's at CSUN where they continue to demonstrate their potential as far more than just female engineers. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Kimmy Chacon.
Good news is coming next year for retirees on Social Security. Retired workers are expected to receive a 5.9% boost in benefits for 2022. An extra $92 a month is being estimated for the average retired recipient. It's meant to help people combat the increasing cost of living. This will be the biggest cost of living adjustment in 39 years. It comes after the spike in inflation that's tied to the economic effects of the pandemic. Previously, the average adjustment was only 1.65% per year over the last decade.
Plans for future Bitcoin mining factories has raised environmental concerns. The mining company Greenest Generation in central New York currently produces around 44 megawatts. The megawatts dedicated to Bitcoin are enough electricity to power more than 35,000 homes. The power is used to run 15,300 computer servers. Environmental Commissioner Basil Sagos is concerned about the additional greenhouse gas that will be produced. Environmentalists fear the fossil fuels will be used for private profit rather than public good.
A cargo ship was found to be the cause of the Orange County oil spill. The 1,200-foot-long cargo boat's anchor was stuck onto an underwater pipeline. Investigators believe a storm in January caused the ship's anchor to drag the pipe along the sea floor for more than 100 feet. However, the pipe was only punctured an inch deep. According to the Coast Guard, it's not enough to cause the oil spill. 25,000 gallons have been released into the ocean. Investigators are looking into different vessels and scenarios.
A Netflix employee who was organizing a walkout in protest of Dave Chappelle's latest special has been fired. The walkout was planned for this Wednesday. The ex-employee was protesting against comments on the special that was deemed transphobic by many critics, including GLAAD. A spokesperson for the media giant said in a statement that the employee shared confidential information outside the company. Chappelle's new stand-up show continues to receive criticism for the jokes referencing the LGBTQIA+ community. Netflix has since reinstated 3 employees it had previously suspended who spoke out against Chappelle on Twitter.
Music is in the air here at CSUN, but where is it coming from? Valley View's Margot Rowe has the answer.
While many classes are back on campus and classrooms, some aren't. Performing art classes, especially in the music department, take a different approach when returning onto campus.
Certainly 10 ensembles are rehearsing outside, and I would say there's a bunch of small things going on outside too.
LA County COVID-19 rules requires that certain players and artists to practice outside if face coverings can't be used.
We were not allowed to have winds and singers inside at all. So that's a lot of our ensembles.
Even though he has classes outside, Jacob Alvarez Ruiz believes it's better than rehearsing through a computer screen.
It's quite refreshing compared to spending a whole year on Zoom.
The music might come off as a distraction during study time, but Alvarez Ruiz believes that people enjoy the outside rehearsals.
There's not a day where we don't have people stopping by when they're walking their dogs. They stop by to just record, to just listen. Even students, while they're walking from classes or to their cars, they stand by with their friends and they just take a few minutes to listen to us. And we feel great that they are enjoying the activity as well.
While it's unclear how long the music department classes will be rehearsing outside, if you're ever on the south side of campus, they're always looking for an audience. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Margot Rowe.
When we come back, Dodger fans and local businesses are keeping their hopes up for the boys in the playoffs. Also, the Las Vegas Raiders coach resigns from his position. Stay with us. A section of MacArthur Park was closed off to the public for maintenance, affecting the unsheltered population of the area. In recent years, the site has become home for a growing number of encampments. The cleanup process is expected to last months. The city council member, Gail Cedillo, said the homeless individuals have been moved into temporary housing since January. According to Cedillo, 268 people now have access to their own beds and running water. During the closure, the Park and Recreation Department will be handling repairs and renovations from lighting to landscaping.
A $30 million Latino cultural complex is planned for Long Beach. The massive undertaking will include a community center and a marketplace. Last week, the City Council received a preliminary business plan for the project. Community engagement on the complex is being spearheaded by prominent Latino organization Centro CHA. CHA is also expected to take the lead in developing the center. Megan Anaya, the organization's economic researcher and consulting analyst, said there was an overwhelming need for the space. The complex is expected to require a $1.6 million operating budget. The city has not identified a funding source for the project.
The LA Dodgers trail 0-2 in the National League Championship Series against the Atlanta Braves. The Braves need 2 more victories to secure their first World Series appearance since 1999. Last year, the Dodgers experienced the rough patch against the Braves at this stage. The boys in blue will have a chance at turning the score around when they play as locals this week. Third baseman Justin Turner was absent from Sunday's lineup due to a neck injury. According to Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, Turner is likely to return for Game 3.
Fans are not the only ones hoping that the Los Angeles Dodgers pull through. Local businesses are too. Valley View's Catherine Hernandez has the story.
The 2020 World Series champs are back in this year's playoffs. For most fans, this is their first time back at the stadium, and they're happy and hopeful that the Dodgers will bring back yet another championship title.
We haven't been to a game in a very long time, and so to get a playoff game, we're really excited. And we hope that the Dodgers win and force Game 5 because it'd be really big. I mean, you got the 2 best teams in baseball right now, so it's going to be a good one either way.
Local businesses are also keeping their fingers crossed for the Dodgers to continue their playoff run. Mike S., manager and executive chef at Ivanhoe Restaurant in Silver Lake, says business has flourished, resulting in a packed house every game night.
During the Dodger home games, we do get pretty packed because we're right by the Dodger Stadium. Usually, if the Dodgers win, we usually give them like shots on the house. It is a party during the game nights.
A thriving business isn't the only positive outcome. Tony Marquina, a bartender at Ivanhoe, shares how fun it is to work at the establishment and that he has had the privilege to meet Dodgers star Clayton Kershaw.
See everybody excited. It's really fun for me to work. I don't feel like I'm working. We have a bunch of players. I have a picture actually with the Kershaw. I saw that when he was alive. He came here too. There's just the ambience, the sign over there tells you everything. So we are like Dodger Town.
Fans and business owners wait and see how far the Dodgers will advance in this year's playoffs. But whatever the outcome is, they'll be back to support LA and the boys in blue. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Catherine Hernandez.
WNBA star Candice Parker is one of the most successful crossover players in women's sports. Now she's a champion. She led her team, the Chicago Sky, to a finals against the Phoenix Mercury. After 2 straight years of heartbreak with the Los Angeles Sparks, Parker was finally able to win it all. The Chicago Sky was down by 9 points when they entered the 4th quarter. The team powered back to ensure an 80-74 victory. Parker can add to her already impressive resume. She now has 2 WNBA championships, as well as 2 NCAA titles and a pair of Olympic gold medals.
The Las Vegas Raiders coach Jon Gruden has resigned after the discovery of controversial emails. Gruden's emails included several instances of racist, sexist, and homophobic language. They were geared towards players, other members of the NFL, and even high-profile figures such as former President Obama and Caitlyn Jenner. Since Gruden's resignation, Rich Bisaccia has been named the head interim coach of the Raiders. The Raiders general manager Mike Mayock had some positive words to share about Bisaccia.
Is he a great coach? Hell yeah. But he's an even better man.
Gruden's emails were discovered during a separate investigation concerning workplace misconduct for the Washington football team. The emails were sent to Bruce Allen, who was the former president of the Washington football team, before being fired in 2019.
The pandemic has continuously affected people of all different sorts of professions, including athletes. Our reporter, Paige Jones, spoke with the student athlete about his experience dealing with the illness.
Amidst an ongoing pandemic, there have been many who have succumbed to the COVID-19 illness. The illness hit a little closer to the Matadome when a member of the men's basketball team was diagnosed. Athlete Darius Brown II says conditioning when returning was very difficult after recovering.
I just felt very out of shape and my strength was back. It was very hard for me to just catch my wind.
Head athletic trainer Steve Gretsch says the return to play progression for athletes who are diagnosed with COVID-19 is slow and steady.
Once they were cleared by the cardiologist, they would start a return to play progression, where they would just start conditioning and do about, like, say, 25% of what they would do in a practice, and then progress over the next, 4 days.
Brown says getting COVID-19 has caused long-term effects on his everyday routine.
Pushing me to get more check-ins with the trainers and making sure that, I'm okay. I still have to do some of those things today, although, I don't have COVID anymore.
Living in a pandemic and experiencing the outcome of its effects can be difficult for anyone. Brown has put his focus on winning the conference tournament and participating in March Madness during his final year. Reporting from Northridge, I'm Paige Jones.
That's all for Valley View News. I'm Malik Patterson.
And I'm Elizabeth Medina. For stories any time of the day, go to our website, sundial.csun.edu. Thanks for watching.